Hey y'all, welcome back to the channel, and we have another recap video for you guys. Love Island Season 3, Episode 21. And we got a lot to unpack. We have both good times, bad times, and crazy times tonight. So before we jump into this, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button, turn on your notifications. If you like the video, smash the like button, and feel free to drop a comment down in the comment section below. So yes, we have a lot to talk about. Looking forward to doing that with you guys. So without further ado, let's jump into this video. So as you remember from previous episode, we have 3 new girls, Ellie, Bailey, and Alana. So tonight we have some surprises in store. But let's talk about the sit down that Cashay had with Trina and Olivia. So we see Cash is saying that Charlie had a great conversation with Alana. Olivia comes in and she talks about Corey and Bailey and is talking about him being disrespectful. Cash says, well, the only thing that's classified as disrespectful is lying and cheating. And she says, never call a man out on his BS. Just sit and watch. Otherwise, you lose your power, and you have to maintain your power. And it was funny that Matthew Hoffman, the narrator, was like, don't check the footage for the past 5 weeks to see if she followed her own rules. I mean, she tried to call out some folks several times. Anywho, so Josh and Shannon is up next. Shannon gets a text that her and Josh is going on their first date. And, in the beauty room, she tells the girl that they have been together since day one, and it feels like the first time every time that they are together. And I thought that was cool. I don't know if I really believe that. We've only seen what the show wanted us to see, but hey, she feels that way. So that's what counts. So they go together to go ziplining. And I've always wanted to do this. I've done a short one, not as long as this one, but they look like they were really excited. The scenes that they gave us looked like they were looking into their eyes, gazing at each other. And if they had so much of a deep connection, they really had a good time ziplining. But, it seems like from this point, maybe they are going to take their relationship to the next level. And this definitely sparks the conversation that Josh decides to have with her about taking their relationship to the next level or taking it higher. So they talked about how they think they found their person and how they felt comfortable taking their relationship outside the villa. Shannon never thought that she would find love in Love Island. But again, she says she thinks she's found her person. What do you think about that, guys? Because, right now it's rainbows and the fantasy and roses and everything. But what happens when Josh slips up? She's ready to take his head off. So in this particular scene, Josh asks Shannon to be his girlfriend. And she was like, wait a minute. You asking me this right now? And he was like, yeah, you got 2 minutes to give me an answer. And, she breaks down and say, yes, of course. It's a pretty interesting relationship. I really don't think we have any solids in the villa right now. It's just been so shaky the past, 5 weeks. But obviously it seems like they're trying to, push this relationship further with these two. I would like to see them outside the villa. For one thing, they don't live in the same city, so this is going to be a long-distance relationship. And the question is, can they deal with this? And we've seen this in Season 2, where most of the couples that left, they definitely didn't live in the same area. They lived on 2 different coasts, and it just didn't work out. I think they were together maybe a month or 2, and it ended. But they're going to try it out. Guys, let me know what you think about this couple. Do you think that they got what it takes to make it as girlfriend and boyfriend? We will definitely see. So now we're back at the villa, and Olivia and Trina are having a conversation. Olivia says she's not going to continue to pursue Corey until he becomes more intentional and reassuring. And Trina told her, Corey has been reassuring with you, okay? And that she's trying to find every excuse not to be with him, basically self-sabotaging the relationship. I think Olivia is seeing exactly what Corey is portraying. And for both Trina and Cashay in the previous episode, telling her to, oh no, he's good. If it was anything big, you would know. No, you're fine. And I'm like, no. Corey is definitely sending signals that he is interested in Bailey. And I just think that it's just not a good thing to tell a person what they want to hear. So Shannon and Josh returns back to the villa. They come back to tell everyone their new relationship status and that Josh asked her to be his girlfriend. They talked about how their date was ziplining. And, it was interesting how they put a shot on Will and Kira at one point. And that was pretty interesting because they was looking some kind of way. But I don't know if they were just trying to throw in drama. But I just thought that was interesting that, they had that look on their face. So the guys and the gals, they separate. And this is where we see the little sidebar conversations between the groups. We see Jeremy ask whether they can actually do this, like I said earlier, the long distance relationship outside of the villa. Now, did you guys find it interesting that Josh kind of bounced around the questions and then he just ended up saying, oh, it could be no difference than living in the villa? Yeah, right. Life outside that villa right now is fantasy world. So think twice, Josh. Shannon tells the girl how happy she is and that, that she's pretty much booed up at this point and she just over the moon about it. And I'm like, okay, I hope it lasts just for their sake. They seem to be happy in this moment. And like I say, I'm a sucker for love and romance, but I just want it to go well. I mean, nothing's perfect. You're going to have ups and downs, but I'm going to wait and see what happens. So now we have a conversation. I would say Corey toasts to the three girls in the villa, which prompts Josh to pull Corey to the side and have a conversation. He asks what is his situation. Corey says that he likes Bailey, but he really still has some interest in Olivia and has been since Casa Amor, but don't want to be disrespectful. Josh told him explore the connection with Bailey and continue to let Olivia know. But when he's having conversation with each of the women, to be in that moment with them and not thinking of the other at the same time. And I think that's great information. I mean, that's what this is about. It's a social experiment of exploration until you get to the relationship status that Josh and Shannon is in. Right now, everybody's exploring. So I found that pretty darn interesting. So now we have a conversation with Corey and Bailey. Bailey asks where he's at with Olivia, and he says, well, I'm into you, but I still have feelings for Olivia. And the crazy thing is, Olivia is continuing to have a walkthrough. It was first with Shannon, and then she goes 2 times with Cash. Corey says to Bailey, he likes that she's a very calming person. And he says that she is his type. She was like, well, what type is that? And he was like, you. And I'm like, okay, that's not really an answer, Corey. She want to know what your type is. And again, Olivia's trying to make her presence known. But it's interesting that Corey's thought processes, and he says in the confession that he's now leaning toward Bailey, but he has to deal with his feelings with Olivia. And, that's going to be very interesting to say the least. So, Charlie and Cash, they have a conversation. Charlie actually starts out with a conversation with Alana. Alana says that she can't really move forward until she knows their situation. He says he has to have a conversation with Cash first. And that is totally appropriate. Before you make a decision, you need to have conversations with that other person. We see Trina and Cash talking about how long they've been having a conversation. But the thing is that I think he does. You need to have some communication first. Clean up the unfinished business before you move into something else. It isn't a good look when you're telling two people at the same time, that I'm 100% with you and I'm 100% with you. It doesn't work like that. So, of course, that got Cash all upset because of the conversation that she's seeing them have. And this is where we see Charlie pulls Cash to the side and wants to talk with her. And they have their sit down, and he tells her that he can't see himself moving forward with her and that it's not due to anyone else. And I'm like, you had me up to that point, Charlie, because you know it has something to do with Alana. So for you to tell her that was not necessarily the truth, unless they cut something out of editing. But at this point, when he tries to tell her why, she gets upset, she walks away, she ends the conversation, and as Matthew Hoffman said, she storms off and throws him out for the rest of the night. And then, of course, we see her, and of course, he's like, oh my God, I didn't look at this situation, And, I mean, if you want communication, you need to sit down and talk. The next thing, and I understand people react to things and they get all emotional. She just stormed off and walked out. And she went straight to the beauty room to have a conversation with the girls. And she talked about how she gave up everything to be with him. And I'm like, okay, what did you give up? Because if Cinco was no value to you and you let him go, then what are you talking about? I mean, usually you give up something or you feel like a loss when there's a value that has been bestowed upon something. What did you give up to be with him? Because at this point, Cinco is a non-factor. You let him go unless you still have feelings for him. But he comes back in. The girls are giving him the side eye. Charlie, and of course everybody's hugging it out. Alana feels awkward because of the situation. And I mean, the beauty room is just a room and a ball of emotion. Now, of course, Olivia's pissed off. She's talking about, I'm going to go on attack mode. So she goes over to where Charlie is over at the cafe area. And Olivia says that, why did you have to do this right now? Give me a reason why. And he was like, well, I don't have any problem explaining this, but I'm not going to explain this right here and right now. And necessarily not to her. The person that needs to hear whatever they need to hear is Cash, not you. And I get it. Your girlfriends want to protect you. But yeah, I mean, this situation is a mess. Now, if they were in a relationship like Josh and Shannon, I could see that. But they're exploring at this point. I also found it interesting. She didn't want to sleep with Charlie, and then she did, and then she was playing with his face throughout the night. I don't know. It's just an interesting situation. Then there's the conversation with Jeremy and Corey. Both of them say that they're interested in Bailey. Corey says that he's trying to figure it out as he had a 3-hour conversation with Bailey, and he didn't even realize the conversation was that long. However, Jeremy says that he's not going to get in the way of it all, and he just wants to allow both Corey and Bailey to make their own decisions. And I'm like, okay, Jeremy, what are you here for? You're not making connections with Ellie or Lana. 2 guys are coming in. So what's next? So, I don't know what Jeremy's going to do, but Corey got some decisions to make, because he's leaning more toward the side of the scale where Bailey is versus where the side of where Olivia is. And again, Casa Amor was like last week, and all of a sudden you feeling some kind of way, and you like Olivia this much, and it's been since Casa Amor, and I'm like, okay. So this is an interesting conversation, and I put several clips in this as well. So Cash decides to sit down and have a conversation with Alana. She informs her that she's not mad at her, and she won't blame a woman for man's problems. And she said that Charlie treated her like Cinco. And I'm like, how? I mean, y'all help me understand it. Okay. But he gave her the silent treatment when I think she was the one that froze him out that night. I don't know. It's just an interesting situation. And she tried to make her feel like it's not your fault. It's all Charlie's fault. He told you that I don't want to move forward with you. I would prefer me, myself, and maybe because I'm older, I prefer somebody to tell me I'm not their person so I can move on. I'm not for everybody. And now that I know that at this point, there are people that's just going to say, this not going to work between us. And they're not in a relationship. They've only known each other for a few days. And the whole thing about Cinco treating her the same way, or Charlie's treating her the same way as Cinco, that is something totally different. I mean, Cinco did not say, he said he had a connection with both girls, back and forth, blah, blah, blah. He never broke that out. But broke that out about the fact that I can't move forward with you. He just went over to Trina, decided he wanted her back. Now we have the conversation with Charlie and Cash. Cash says to him that she had a talk with Alana, and she told Charlie, meaning Alana, she told her that Charlie was interested in her. Now, I had to go back and look at that section. And check this out.
That you told her that you were interested in her, right? And I understand how uncomfortable it is for you. Yeah. I can definitely tell there's an attraction there with you and Charlie. I can see that. I'm not blind and not dumb. But for me, it's like, I'm confident who I am as a woman. I think you're stunning. If he ends up having a better connection with you, I would never blame you. It would suck, but like, I would never blame you. There's no reason to be shady. There's no reason to be disrespectful or petty. We're all in here for the same reason.
I would love to find a connection here, like, I just don't know, it may not happen.
Now, nowhere in that clip in their conversation did I hear her say, Cash, he told me that he had an interest in me. I didn't see that. So I don't know, unless there's something cut out, clip. We don't get everything in editing. But in that particular conversation, she didn't mention that. She was like, I don't know. If I find a connection, I'll pretty much be glad. She really didn't give Cash. He told me he was interested in me. So I don't know. Let me know what you guys think about that whole conversation. But then they go into this whole thing about, you can tell me everything. I'm a big girl. And he was like, well, wait a minute. When I tried to communicate with you, you stormed off and froze me out the rest of the night. And it's like, okay. And she was quiet for a minute. And she went in confessional and said, hey, sometimes we do get mad after, we hear something shocking, which is true. But if you want communication, you got to be open not to just hearing the good stuff, but you also got to hear the hard stuff too. And she said she wants somebody to bring her and be able to tell her the good and the bad. Okay, well, you got to be open to receiving it. That's the other thing. And he said most people want communication, but they really don't. Then they started talking about she was saying how I'm spicy. I can be the spice on your rice, and he likes his rice spicy. And I'm like, what just happened here? I don't know. It's a weird situation between these two. But anywho, so there's this whole Fashion Nova sponsorship, obviously, that Love Island have with them. And they have all of the gear for the girls, all of the gear for the guys, which definitely leads into this whole slumber party that they're having, which they got a text about earlier. Well, and everybody was looking really good, really, really good. I like Fashion Nova. I buy from them. However, that brings on KC, who's a barber, and he's very attractive. And he was like, I don't have any problem breaking anybody up. So, if you want to couple up, I have no problem breaking that up. And then we have Andre. Andre is out here looking to get with Olivia. So Corey might get a little bit of taste of his own medicine while he's being 100 and 100 with two different people. So they come over to the villa. Production has them hiding under the Fashion Nova, I guess, bed sheets, part of this whole slumber party thing, while, the OGs and the Islanders are toasting it up. And then did y'all check out the scene with Cash and Charlie? I'm like, okay, I can't, I just don't know. I'm so confused. What's up with that? Anywho, I digress. But the Islanders went over to the bed to jump in and kind of just bounce all over the place like little kids having fun. However, both Casey and Andre sat up in the bed and said, wait a minute, I thought this was a slumber party, which shocked the mess out of the Islanders. I thought that was pretty funny, and Olivia was shocked. And I'm wondering if she's shocked because she sees an attractive man. And they put the camera on Trina too, which kind of gives us a precede to tomorrow's episode where we see Trina kissing Casey and we see Olivia kissing Andre on episode 22. And Corey is looking some kind of way. So I'm definitely looking forward to this one. So this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.